am film, not steel. Oh, user, have mercy. I front dangers whenever I travel the whirling wheels of mechanism. Over the sprocket wheels held tight by the idlers, I'm forced by the motor's magic might. If a careless hand misthreads me, I have no alternative but to go to my death. If the pull on the take-up reel is too violent, I'm torn to shreds. If dirt collects in the aperture, my film of beauty is streaked and marred, and I must face my beholders, a thing ashamed and bespoiled. I'm a delicate ribbon of film. Misuse me, and I disappoint thousands. Cherish me, and I delight and instruct the world.
I'm cross my banana and there, mobile Sibian so, but see. If you move a matter of one,
I find them. Manager, na Esquema, the baby.
Yeah, maybe again. I mean, you will be that.
I see this car, but
Move a monk,
oh, my Miami.
Monk,
oh, manager,
oh,
manager,
oh, manager, oh, manager. Oh, man, that's it. Ha, Yamisra.
Doas.
Ran a mess up.
I find them.
The Ghanaian is a lover of films.
Film viewing was a community activity. You walked into a cinema hall and you became a part of a living being, almost, reacting to the magic of the cinema.
Then you better have one. Sayamalam, Sayabazo.
Me Yamala, me Yakubu, me Tuenza, me Dundum Banza, stupid born by mistake.
I remember when I was a boy, we used to sneak off after the evening chore into the cinema theater, even though we didn't have the money. We found ways and means of getting in. And my goodness, what did we see?
Nigeria, oh, you was me. When if you be, you are Christmas.
I know. What just the baby? See the craze so far.
I still have the nostalgia of going to a film theater. I mean, if you're going out on a date for a young couple, for instance, a film was certainly on the cards. And you would have a hilarious or emotional experience shared with a lot of other people. I have always loved films. I started watching films when I was a kid. In Sawam, where I was born and educated, had one of the first cinema houses called Captain Cinema, I think it was built in 1926 or something.
You have to remember that there were very few pastimes at the time. The only thing you could do was either read, go to or watch films. There was no television. You didn't have the computers. You didn't have anything. So most people looked to go to film going as an important recreational activity.
What did you come myself? Yes, Papa. I was saying, oh yeah, you with this machine. Went out for some clothes to sew. When he shouted, oh yeah, yeah, people start to laugh at him. Boko, I mean, okay. Oh yeah, yeah, with this machine. Went out for some clothes to sew. And when he shouted, oh yeah, 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 people start to laugh at him. When's the other pipe organs?
Cinema came to Ghana and Nigeria in 1903, but film production started in the then Gold Coast, now Ghana, 1948 with the setting up of a West African Film School.
The film industry on Ghana or Gold Coast was begun by the British. We believed there was a difference between Oman, which is a state, and Aban, which means castle or government.
There is victory for us. There is victory for us. There is victory for us.
And what belonged to Aban was destroyable in the national conflict. So they had to find some way to get people to turn over.
The colonial films that were made before the time were simply, how to teach a village to eradicate malaria, sanitation. A film was called Progress Comes Koyokrom, how the people built a drainage, and so on. Teaching films, yes, there was the concentration of the colonial program.
Oh, I'm going back to my hometown. I shall be very, very happy. There's a new house waiting for me there.
Have you built it yourself? I mean, is it yours?
Yes, for the past 3 years now.
Well, I must look you up sometime.
Oh, it's a small town. I don't think you'll know that.
The colonial government wanted to know how we were responding to colonial rule. And therefore, the setting of the film industry wasn't for Ghanaian stories to be told, but the main objective was for them to know how we were, audiovisually, how we were responding to colonial rule.
Occasionally, the native administration police come round to see the traders have their licenses.
There were the propaganda films. Mr. Mensah built a house. Progress in Koyokrom. Then the first feature, The Boy Kumasinu. All of them were meant to create a certain, or as film has been used in every major country, to create a sense of self for the people.
We did not even appreciate the damage. We all enjoyed it. For instance, if you saw an European gunning down black people, we clapped. But when you see one European gunned down by an African, we all showed a sign of sadness. The audiovisual media had been used for us to hate our own kith and kin.
Sorry, sir.
When Nkrumah took over, that was the turning point. When we had our independence in 1957, Nkrumah knew the power of film.
Nkrumah films were to, yes, continue to teach the people, but also to entertain them and to enhance their understanding, their cultural levels of understanding of the meaning of independence.
He restructured the film industry, the Gold Coast Film Unit. See, and he took the cinemas from the Lebanese and the foreigners and annexed to the production unit, and it became the Ghana Film Industry Corporation. He read all our scripts. He got involved in the cinema. He loved cinema, and he had a projector at Frasap House where he was watching all our films, the news, everything.
I was a fellow at the Institute of African Studies at Lagos. I was invited by the Osajifo and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to go in there to take care of the creative angle, because the program was to let the corporation begin to produce films.
'Tis sweet and commendable in thy nature, Hamile, to give these morning duties to your father. But to persevere in obstinate condolement is a cause of impure stubbornness. We pray you, throw to earth this unprevailing woe and think of us as of a father. For let the world take note. You are the most immediate to our throne, and with no less nobility of love than that which dearest father bears a son, do I impart toward you.
When you join
Going
GFIC,
back to Lagos,
depending on your educational qualification, invariably they put you into a pool where they train the editors, the directors, the production managers, the cameramen, the sound men. We were all put into one pool, and as jobs came up, you were assigned.
I would say Ghana Films was very, very well equipped. We had equipment for outdoor shooting, and we had a lot of equipment also for shooting in the studio. All these had been bought and brought there, I believe, in Kwame Nkrumah's time. And so we were very, very equipped. The only problem that stopped us from making a number of films was money.
We were thinking seriously of developing the industry to the extent where a percentage of what is shown in Ghanaian cinema houses on a weekly basis should be assigned to Ghanaian producers and technical workers. And that kind of arrangement was a very beautiful arrangement.
There was some control of a certain kind, because some of the films, particularly those in color, had to go back after shooting. They had to go back to Britain, to the Rank laboratories for processing and then editing. So the director, the editor, and one person from the Ministry of Information would accompany them to make sure that you don't step on anybody's toes, you know. It was important to government at that time.
One of the things that many people tend to forget about this man, Kwame Nkrumah, was that when he looked at national development, he looked at it in the most holistic way. I was there for, let me say, 2.5 years, because barely 2 years, then Nkrumah was overthrown. And as someone who was appointed by him, like hundreds of others, we were all driven out by the coup makers.
Celluloid is the creme de la creme of film. I mean, the thing is that it's just damn expensive.
But celluloid keeps quality. You know, so you can, film negatives can be stored for a long time.
It's not cheap. You know, it's not cheap. And therefore, bearing that in mind, you are very careful what you do.
Working on celluloid is a craft. It's not something you can just discuss and immediately implement.
What I miss most is the turbulence of activity in filmmaking. And it is due to the fact that we don't have finance in this country.
For long periods, there was nothing because of the cost and the unwillingness of government to put any funds in film.
We don't have a film culture in Ghana. So government does not invest anything into film. That one is zero.
The banks don't give loans. Businessmen don't get into film production. Organizations and so forth hardly commission films.
It took Kwanzaa's private enterprise to actually make something of a film.
Oh, you're great. Just great. Who wrote it?
Very great, isn't it?
I like the way he spells modern and fashion.
Yes. M-O-D-E-N.
There's an R before the N.
Huh? Very great, isn't it?
I've had this story for about 8 years. It was such a big challenge. On location, I fainted several times. In spite of all the challenges, I was not rushing because I've had the opportunity. Things that turn out to be good must be worked on very carefully.
Ghana Film Corporation was established at a time when Ghana, as a Gold Coast, knew films.
Hawa, you said you were going to the church, didn't you? I know you've had your below-the-belt baptism. Now you can add your last prayers to it. But please, you shut up.
When we made some Ghanaian films with Ghanaian locations, Ghanaian cast, the director is Ghanaian, the crew members are all Ghanaian, it got to the notice of the people in town, and they flocked to come and see the productions.
Yes.
Yes. See, Payana, Baba.
Awesome pain of cry. Hey, what friend can pop where Asantira?
In West Africa, we had the best trained people, the best equipment, the best sound studios. What happened?
I wrote to the ministry that the following year, the film industry should be taken off government subvention because we were self-sufficient. And then, early part of the following year, I was asked to go on retirement, so I left. And then 2 years after, it was sold.
To me, I think it's an act of murder for a country.
I was mortified.
That's a tragedy. That's a tragedy.
I thought we were selling our birth right away.
To me, it was hijacked.
That was really painful. That was painful.
I feel very bad. And I will always talk about it.
Sometimes we are told not to say GFIC was sold. At the time the transactions were going on, we were told, and I was there, that the Malaysians were coming in to take it over, build it up, finance it, empower it, and then operate it, and after 15 years, hand it over as an enhanced institution or organization. And so that's what happened.
At that time, I was teaching at NAFTI. That was 1997. Okay. And it sprang on some of us that suddenly the place is gone.
A country that sells its own film studios and its library, throws in its library of historic material to another country, as it were, is one that obviously does not value film, but more significantly must be in some sort of conflict about who we are.
You take Hollywood, for instance, the movie industry has contributed massively. You take India, take Nigeria for now. The only one that we could also develop, the government couldn't develop, the government decided to sell the industry for their selfish end.
The sale of Ghana Film Industry Corporation is a tragedy for Ghanaian culture and African civilization. It's a betrayal of the Kwame Nkrumah dream of we ourselves must be able to tell our own story.
No, I think it was more economic, and at the time it was fashionable that they were selling off things. We had so many suitors coming in and saying, "Look, we'll transform your industry." So the sellers actually made a point that I think our people, our policymakers, accepted, but they didn't expect that it would be this way.
I was a board member of GFIC. I protested when they were even going to negotiate with the Malaysians, and I challenged. I was told that they only wanted to recapitalize the place, so they were going to sell 30%, to resolve the place. That wasn't so. That wasn't so.
That place was where we have, if you like, buried our umbilical cord. And suddenly, you are barred from going there.
I tried to find out information. I contacted one or two people, and what they told me didn't make much sense, except that the pressure from the IMF and the World Bank to get rid of all so-called state-subvented organizations that were not making profits.
When the Malaysians took over, we heard that some of the old films that could have been used properly, even for research work and so on, had been burnt, and that was really painful.
They saw the cellulose and those things, and they were not interested in cellulose, so they started burning. And they burned our history, the black and white materials.
I mean, how sensitive do you expect the Malaysians to be about our heritage? They have their own heritage to think about.
So our past have been wiped out. Our black and white materials have been wiped out.
It's only people who don't know what film does to a country who do something like that.
Whoever was responsible did not see into the future, didn't see far enough, and thought that, hey, get rid of this.
So to me, it's a murder, and it calls for a perpetual funeral. We should mourn every day.
Some people just wanted to make a buck. They deceived all of us that they were going to create gamma for them to, look at even the theater houses.
This place originally belonged to the government, Ghana Film Industry Corporation here. Shall we say they are on some temporary leave, so they've sort of given it out to us to run for the time being.
Well, I share this place with 4 churches. It's very disturbing, but I'm handicapped. I can't do anything about it. I show movies, and sometimes I show football. Yeah, that depending. If there is a soccer, then I will screen it for the people to see on big screen.
Our films are released by the producers, and they are bought by individuals. The feelings rest with those individuals, and thus they die with them. But then if the films could be rendered or bought and then projected in cinema houses, it will draw crowds, and crowds will then discuss the films, and the films itself themselves will explode and then cover the system.
You always see youth around when there's a football. Yeah. Even sometimes if I have late football, after the ball, I will just try to shoot up the movie just to convince their mind for some to say, he can't believe it, everybody will just vanish.
Now, I mean, the theaters are not even there, to measure how many people are going to the theaters and so on. The theaters are non-existent.
Sometimes we get 100 people. No, 100 people is very far. About 30, 35. That if the Indian movie, maybe because they too, most of the time, they watch poster. If the poster is more convincing, they have their own stars, they like their movie. So if it's very convincing, maybe I will get 30 people, yeah.
Now a lot of people either buy the cassettes and see them at home, or they go to a few video theaters which are there.
Since I open here, it's 50 pesos. The day I try to make it 70 pesos, it's like I sack all of them.
Those who supervise the sale and the disposal of the Ghana Film Corporation did not think deep enough to understand the value of what they were giving away.
The sale of Ghana films was a culmination of a constant process of neglect. It was a logical conclusion from the way government had neglected the film industry from Nkrumah's time onwards.
I went to the ministry to see the then minister, Mr. Spiogabra, and he formed an archival retrieving committee under my chairmanship to retrieve. But when we got there, what we had was about 10% of our archival material. So we made recommendations, and storage was made to store those things. But the Malaysians, they were not keeping the place as cool as required. So the Ministry of Information directed that the films should be sent to ISD. And there it was from frying pan to fire. Now everything's gone there.
A lot of damage has been made. Because GFIC had been sold, there was nobody to even follow, chase our negatives. Because, print can be spoiled, but if the mother is there, the mother can always give birth to another child.
For those who knew nothing about the film industry, it was like selling a dormant asset, because there was no record of government giving any support, meaningful support to it. Okay, GPRTU got far more support from government than the film industry.
The brief is to bring it back, and one of the things that we're working in hand with other stakeholders, NAFTI and GTV, and the other state organizations, is to bring our archival material back and put them into pristine condition to be used by people who are doing research, to be used by people who want to do things that will be of benefit to the society.
We have now become more Catholic than the Pope with the democracy. We allow people into our film industry and television industry simply on the basis of their ability to raise the money. You cannot get into the American television industry simply because you've got money.
You cannot take a camera and go to London and start shooting. You should obtain permission from the union.
Millennium Challenge account is done, everybody can see the bridge, the highway, but the other things that it has done to make that highway relevant, nobody has seen, because the concept of putting it together as a public education process is not invested in.
When I look at a film made in Ghana, the next question I ask myself is, can I take this out to show at a film festival or to exhibit outside? Quite often, using this criteria, out of about 10 films produced now, I may get only 2.
And the young people are buying into all kinds of things. The proliferation of nonsense and the films that we are making are imitating some of the worst that is coming from the West.
In every audience, there is the human factor of prurience. We always like human beings, like when they know what is right, what is wrong becomes a little more exciting. If you want to play with that, you can and get away with it. But the question is, if you have an industry and you have a nation that's thinking forward, how far will you allow prurience to become a factor in your communication?
The sale of the GFIC created all these problems for us. Yeah, it was a very wrong decision. And you see, now we are importing Nigerian films. We train the Nigerians.
We've written into our constitution there will be no censorship. And therefore, people can play around with polemic and use phrases and titles and so on as they wish, provided they can justify it. Somebody can strip naked on television and then on another TV channel claim that he's even more popular now. And if he had known that would be the case, he would have stripped earlier.
The film bill is for us to manage the industry, and we're working hard to ensure that the film bill is completed, just as we are working hard to get the broadcasting bill completed, because we've not really engaged that part of that sector of our society as well as we should have.
This film bill we started about 25 years ago, but it's been in Parliament. I'm sure it's about around 10 years or so. Yeah, it's been there. And nobody cares.
We're looking at the possible sale of the industry to Ghanaians. We're looking at evaluating the kind of plant that we have. And when I say plant, I'm talking about all the equipment and things like that. And you know, now we've got a lot of Ghanaian expertise, and we'll look at that. I mean, it's part and parcel of the plan to be able to salvage and redeem the Ghanaian film industry.
Even the present government is not alive to the arts. Even the present government, to which I'm affiliated somehow.
It's not their priority. It's not their priority. Funds are being released for all sorts of activities, programs in the country, but film hasn't been their priority at all. And yet, if they make it a priority, it will pay itself.
So if we want it back, we'll re-establish the Ghana film industry in its pristinest form, not as necessarily a state-managed enterprise, but a state-guided enterprise that has some assistance, the way Kolebu will get some for medical medicine and so on. We must have a laboratory that will be able to deal with some of the older material. We should have a concept of it being a total industry and put all our resources together and manage it well so that the very best of our youngest can come out with the very best, and so we can consistently grow it. Otherwise, we will never have a sense of ourselves.
The president is very, very eager to ensure that the film industry in this country burgeons. It becomes a very successful sector of Ghanaian society.
The National Media Commission is toothless. in dealing with this, and the National Communication Authority has had no authority to deal with content anyway. And the film bill will not be passed. Is this a country that's looking at a serious way of using this excellently powerful medium that in a certain way has been used to make us consider ourselves the way we do in relation to others?
As a filmmaker who's now a Minister of Information, I make a very strong case. And I think that the government is sympathetic. And basically I think that we'll do something about it very, very, very soon because I'm pushing it.